Diabetes has become a major challenge to the health of people around the world. According to the World Health Organization, there are 200 million people globally who have diabetes. It is often hard to put such numbers in perspective, but even though they are totally different diseases, the worldwide total of persons who are HIV positive is 40 million, and HIV and AIDS is considered to have reached epidemic proportions. The projection is that 333 million people will have been diagnosed with diabetes by 2025. In the United States, nearly 20 million people have diabetes, with more than 1,300,000 new cases being diagnosed each year. Here are additional statistics for the United States. At 69,301, diabetes was the sixth leading cause of death last year. Diabetes contributed to nearly 3 times as many deaths. Diabetes doubles the risk of premature death. Diabetes accounts for 60% of non-traumatic amputations, 40% of all cases of kidney disease, and causes approximately 20,000 cases of blindness annually. And diabetes causes a 200 to 400% increase in cardiovascular diseases. We need to define a few terms. Glucose and sugar are used interchangeably. A blood glucose or blood sugar level is simply the amount of glucose or sugar that is being carried in the blood of the individual. Insulin is a hormone that is produced by the pancreas. Its production is in response to the level of glucose in the blood, and one of its main functions is to promote glucose uptake into cells so that the glucose can be used as a source of energy. Hyperglycemia means a blood glucose level that is above what is considered normal. Hypoglycemia is a blood glucose level that is below what is considered to be in the normal range. When we use the term diabetes, we are actually talking about 3 distinct diseases. All 3 result in hyperglycemia. But the physiological reasons why the individual is labeled a diabetic are distinctly different. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition and has also been called insulin-dependent or juvenile diabetes. In this condition, an inappropriate immune response has been mistakenly directed at the cells in the pancreas which produce insulin. These cells are called beta cells and lie in a part of the pancreas called the islets of Langerhans. There have been several theories proposed for why this immune attack occurs, but irrespective of the reason, the result is that no insulin is produced by the pancreas. Thus the term insulin-dependent. The individual must use an insulin source in injectable form to control his or her blood glucose. The majority of type 1 diabetics are younger people, often juveniles, and thus also the term juvenile diabetes. From 5 to 10% of diabetics are type 1. The diagnosis is often very abrupt after the individual has experienced excessive fluid intake, excessive urination, and an increase in appetite, accompanied by weight loss. Type 2 diabetes occurs when an individual's pancreas produces insulin, but either the pancreatic production is less than is needed, or the insulin that is produced isn't as effective as it should be in promoting the entrance of glucose into cells to be used for energy. Traditionally, type 2 diabetes has occurred in older people, usually past age 40. It has also been called adult-onset diabetes or non-insulin-dependent diabetes. However, with more individuals becoming overweight or obese, type 2 diabetes is developing more frequently now in younger adults and even in children. Approximately 90% of diabetics are type 2. The third type of diabetes is gestational diabetes. It occurs in some women in the late stages of pregnancy. The hyperglycemia of gestational diabetes usually resolves after delivery, though there is an increase in the likelihood of later developing type 2 diabetes. There are 2 main tests utilized to determine if a person is a type 2 diabetic. A fasting blood glucose test is performed by having an individual fast overnight, or at least 8 hours before drawing blood. A normal blood glucose is considered to be less than 100 milligrams per deciliter. A blood glucose of 100 to 125 puts one in the category of pre-diabetes, which means that a person is more likely to develop type 2 diabetes but doesn't have it yet. A level of 126 or greater, if confirmed in a repeat test on another day, means that a person is a diabetic. An oral glucose tolerance test is another test for diagnosing diabetes. It also requires an 8-hour fast. A blood glucose level is drawn, and then a drink containing 75 grams of glucose is consumed. Another blood glucose is measured 2 hours later. You can see on the screen the normal, pre-diabetes, and diabetes categories that are determined by a glucose tolerance test. Type 1 diabetes is managed by daily injections of insulin, appropriate food selection, exercise, and regular blood testing for glucose levels and urine testing for ketones. The Diabetes Prevention Program was set up to determine if lifestyle changes could prevent an individual from becoming a type 2 diabetic. Individuals were advised on dietary changes, and those who exercised by walking briskly 30 minutes 5 times weekly and who lost 5 to 7% of their body weight had a 58% reduction in the development of type 2 diabetes. If lifestyle changes aren't adopted, an overwhelming majority of those who are pre-diabetic will develop full-blown diabetes within 10 years, and they will then be put on oral glucose-lowering prescription medications to help them control their blood sugar levels. And eventually, many of these individuals will no longer be able to control their blood sugar levels with oral meds, and will have to begin insulin injections in order to keep their blood sugar levels within a reasonable range. Now there are nutritional supplements that can help an individual who is pre-diabetic return to a normal blood sugar level. And those with type 2 diabetes who adopt appropriate lifestyle changes and use these supplements can also have their blood sugar levels significantly lowered, often to within a normal range. To find out about natural, safe blood sugar lowering nutritional supplements, please go to Chapter 8 of the Video Email Nutritional Supplement Educational System.